What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale. Okay, we are here with Dr. Jared Ross. Jared, tell everyone who you are.
Thanks so much. I'm a senior fellow with Do No Harm, and I'm also a board certified and practicing emergency medicine physician.
And we're here today to talk about the detransition situation. And you, introduce yourself.
My name is Chloe Cole. I am an advocate for the protection of children, especially in regards to the transgender issue from the medical abuse that is happening in our hospital systems. I use my own testimony as somebody who has gone through the gender transition process between the ages of 12 to 16 and came back out of it and detransitioned to help to lobby, to help get laws passed, to address communities and colleges, college students on this issue and help them
to join the fight. So you transitioned from a woman to a man, and then from a man to a woman?
Yes.
How old are you now? When did that happen?
I'm 21, and the medical process began for me at 13 with chemical castration agents to stop my puberty. They put me on testosterone very shortly after that, and when I was 15, before I even had a driver's license, they surgically removed my breasts.
Did you decide that you wanted to do that? Was it your parents? Was it your friends? How did you come to the decision at 13 to do that?
I was mistaken that I was a boy because I was a tomboy. I had insecurities around my body, especially because I was developing a little bit young and I had some sexual trauma that was unaddressed. But rather than my doctors challenging these ideas, they said that all these other issues I had were a result of my gender dysphoria and that the only way to fix me was by medically experimenting on me.
Gender dysphoria. And it was sexual trauma, things that you went through in your past that led you to come to this decision.
Yes, but all things considered, a lot of what I was experiencing was just normal teenage angst around growing up that most kids experience.
So at what point did you decide I'm going to go back to my real being a woman?
I think the surgery was probably the most difficult part to deal with, both physically and emotionally. And I also was growing up a little bit. I was 15 going on 16 and thinking about what my future would look like beyond me being a so-called man, right? Beyond superficial things like what school I'd want to go to or what career I'd want to have. I started to wonder, I'd never had a first kiss before by that point in time. And I thought, well, what if I get married one day? What if I want to have kids? And it was then that I learned I have a maternal instinct. I feel like I have a responsibility to carry on my lineage, my values, pass it down to my children, and to stop taking these treatments that might compromise my ability to do that. And it was something that has caused me various medical complications that are still lasting even 5 years afterward. But thankfully, I have healed quite a lot since then, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and it's really helped to be able to repurpose everything that me and my family went through for the greater good and to prevent what happened to me from happening ever again.
So it sounds like your intuition, your instincts as a woman came into being when in your teenage years you realized this. Well, I'm sorry you went through that.
I appreciate it.
You're a beautiful woman, and thank you and now you have a purpose in life to coach and mentor other people, and how is that purpose going for you?
It's been an incredible experience these last 4 years. I started speaking out when I was 17, and I was actually still on the tail end of my senior year of high school, and I thought I was just going to have a Twitter account and maybe have a few thousand followers. All of a sudden, I started having journalists reaching out to me, these big publications, and then I was asked to testify on state laws to help protect children.
Testify in Congress? This is California? Where?
Yes, I've testified in well over about 20, 30 states now.
Wow.
I spoke to Congress on my 19th birthday. And I also have worked at Turning Point as well to address my generation on this issue because, there's only so much you can do in the world of business, right? It's incredibly important that we get this banned, that we make sure that people who have been hurt will have a way out, and that this will never happen again. But we also, I think my generation is grappling with a massive identity crisis that extends well beyond transgenderism. We're trying to find our purpose, our meaning in life. The reason why God put us here on this earth. I think everybody my age is struggling with that, and I want to be able to use not just my experience, but everything I've learned over the past few years to help people my age to do all those things.
We'll get to you, Doctor, in a moment. This is just so fascinating to me, and pardon my ignorance on the issue. But do you, I mean, how many people that have you met in your journey that you've inspired, went through what you, like hundreds, I'm certain?
I personally have met over 100 in person, but there is a massive community of, I think, tens of thousands of people online who are speaking about this, even just like in private forums. But I think that the number is a lot larger than we realize. A lot of these activists, these transgender activist types and doctors even will say like, oh, it's less than like 1% of people who detransition. But we don't know that because there's no reliable way in the medical system to report regret or stopping transition. And they don't follow up. They have really terribly done studies on this that I don't really have enough time to get into. But I would suggest reading these studies on your own to see just how flawed they are and just how much this entire thing is based around ideology. There is a dogma around transitioning, and the left has used it as this powerful political tool.
When I was growing up in the 90s, I didn't see a lot of this, but now what was the reason for it happening recently?
So this actually has been ongoing for, I think, over 100 years, but it was in the 90s that they began to experiment on children because researchers were following up on adult males who were transitioning, right? They still looked like men in dresses, and they were like becoming increasingly unhappy and because of that. And they said, well, we wish we did this when we were younger. We wish we didn't go through male puberty so we could have actually looked like men. And the researchers took this to mean we should start experimenting on kids and start seeing if we can identify these people, start doing it as young as possible. And that theory that the younger you go, the more you look like the opposite sex, is incredibly, you'll be happier, is incredibly flawed because it ignores how dangerous this actually is to do to a developing body.
Do you think it's also just, looking as an outsider looking in, I just, felt that people perhaps wanted to be different. They just wanted to be, it's like a kind of a cultural thing. Is there a truth in that?
Sure. I mean, this is like a huge cultural movement in the last decade. And if you look at the people who are involved in this, many of them are people who are looking for a sense of community, somewhere where they feel like they can be recognized and be accepted for who they say they truly are, but very clearly are putting on a mask, I believe.
Well, Dr. Jared Ross, tell us what type of doctor you are and your involvement in this movement.
So I'm an emergency medicine doctor by training, and I came to do no harm through the DEI side of things. I was forced to sign an implicit bias pledge by the board that certifies me, the American Board of Emergency Medicine. Came in to do no harm and started working on both restoring merit to medicine and combating DEI, as well as on the gender issue. And we've made a lot of progress on both. The gender issue specifically. 26 states have various bans in place protecting minors from this type of care. And then we've got federal legislation, including executive orders from Trump, right after he came into office, that are just now being put into place by Health and Human Services and the FDA.
One of the things that people say to me here is that we should go undercover and expose, and this is something I actually, usually I don't say this on camera, but hey, what the heck? Might be someone watching that wants to wear a hidden camera and expose this. One of my ideas, I'd love to go record cinematically these doctors manipulating these kids, but there's HIPAA laws, and one of the things that you said off camera was, as a journalist, that might not affect me, but it might apply to the doctor. And obviously we would blur the victim, but talk a minute about, how it kind of works if a young 12-year-old or whatever the case may be, 13-year-old is in the doctor's office, doctor comes in and kind of tells them to how to mutilate themselves. How does that work?
Yeah, it's really sick and perverted. I think these kids get indoctrinated. They're struggling kids, whether it's sexual abuse or physical trauma, autism, depression, anxiety. They, are looking for an answer. And what they find, whether it's through social media or their school guidance counselor or their pediatrician, is they're told, no, don't worry about your mental health issues. We're just going to pump you full of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and chop off body parts, and you'll be perfectly fine. And
in detransitioning, are you able to fully recover?
No, so there's this lie that even puberty blockers are fully reversible, and they're not. We know that it stunts growth, it inhibits bone development. So these kids who are on puberty blockers grow up to have osteoporosis. They are at increased risk.
Osteoporosis.
Yeah, they're at increased risk for hip fractures, spinal fractures, and that's not to mention cross-sex hormones, which cause permanent changes in the body. For girls who take testosterone, the voice is permanently deepened. For boys who take estrogen, they grow breasts, they have a rounder face. Those are changes that don't reverse. And then, if you start cutting off body parts, those body parts don't grow back.
And I'd like to add that, there is not a single group of people I've seen that has nearly as many physical disabilities as detransitioners and transgender people who are these are people who are going into their late teens and their early 20s who they have to use canes, they have to use walkers and other mobility devices, and you just have to wonder, why is that? And the truth is, these treatments are disabling. They do not make you healthier, they do not make you more whole, they take away completely healthy function from your body, and it messes with your health in more ways than we will even understand right now.
So we're here at AMFEST, we only have a few minutes left. We have a picture here of me and Charlie Kirk. This is 4 years ago. He has the shirt that says "Never Surrender." This is a picture of me that an artist painted, but it was a photograph. It's kind of funny. He was playing with my bulletproof vest. One of the things that people are very afraid, and you're not afraid. You're a leader, and I give you a lot of credit for the work that you're testifying. You're inspiring people. Not everyone would do what you're doing. People have been through what you've been through, but not everyone's willing to speak up. What led you to do this, to have the courage to do what you're doing?
It's really funny because when I first started doing this stuff, for most of my life, I was known as the shy kid, the quiet one, the artistic one. And I was never really the type to put myself out there a whole lot. But with everything that I've been through, and eventually with my burgeoning faith, I felt compelled to challenge that part of myself, to be outspoken, because I knew the cost. This has cost me and my family personally, and I knew that I wasn't alone, and that the next generation deserves to live in a better world than I grew up in.
How did it cost you and your family?
My mom and dad, they didn't push this on me, but they were told by the doctors, they were emotionally manipulated into believing that my life would be on the line if they did not say yes to this. And this lie was peddled to them not just once, but many, many times over the years, that if I wasn't given as early intervention as possible, I would take my own life. But I wasn't suicidal until I began these treatments. And with how much stress I was in, it compromised our relationship for a little while. And my mom and dad and we've all been traumatized by the whole ordeal. And there was a point in time when they weren't sure that I was even going to make it. I didn't think that I was ever going to be a successful person. I didn't think that I thought I was making plans to take my own life after I transitioned, actually. But
you mentioned
something kept me persevering, and I wanted to fight for a better world for my nieces and nephews, and for my mom and dad for our relationship to heal one day.
Your faith, your burgeoning faith, how did that play a role in leading you to have the courage, and where did that come from?
So for years I wondered, what keeps me going? I've lost
Hell.
so much, but why am I still here? And what's compelling me to just keep moving forward? And when I detransitioned, I felt the same emptiness and confusion as before my transition, because I was looking for a sense of meaning and identity again. And I came to realize that if I keep chasing just myself, if I just keep chasing happiness and my own foolish feelings, then I'm only going to get hurt. That's exactly what happened here. But there is a higher power who I can trust in, who has beautifully created me in his own image. And if I trust in the Word, if I trust in his will for me and his purpose for me, I'm going to get further than I ever would have just on my own.
Where did that come from? Was there an epiphany in your life? Did you read the Bible? Was it someone you met? Where did that inspiration come from?
It was a series of epiphanies over time. It was never just one moment, but after I started to speak out actually was when my faith started to come into my life. And it's because there are so many men and women of all sorts of different walks of life, some of whom I was working with, some of whom were legislators or other people who were helping me through this professionally, but a lot of them were also people who I developed personal relationships with, who they loved me in a very unique way that I had never been before. I mean, I was fresh coming out of the cult where I was love bombed at first, and then they tried to compel me to kill myself after I came out. And they were the ones to tell me, you are beautiful the way that you are, no matter what you've lost. God is going to use all of it, and you can use it to help other people out of their same pain.
So it sounds like a lot of love and kindness and goodness that inspired you.
And the true sense of it. And these people, I think a lot of leftists believe that to love somebody, you have to say yes to everything that they want and focus only on what they want rather than what they need. But I think that accountability is one of the highest forms of love. And you cannot love somebody without upholding the truth for them.
Accountability is one of the highest forms of love, and we need more accountability in 2026. A little controversial question, and Doctor, I'll give you maybe the last word, but one of the things that we uncover at OMG is doing undercover work in DC is it seems like all the guys are gay. And one of the things I've heard from many women here at the conference who perhaps are trying to find a husband or whatever the case may be is all the men are gay. Is it the water? Is it the food? Is it the lack of father figures? Is it narcissism? What's going on?
I think that it's a mix of a lot of those things and so much more. I think that we, in the past maybe 100 years or so, our country and especially our culture has been so downhill. It was the church that used to be the foundation of our culture, but we've increasingly secularized, and we're focusing more on the self. We're focusing more on the things that we see in secular media that doesn't have a solid foundation of values behind it. And I think with this, we've become such an ideologically focused society that we've forgotten how to become human, and we focus so much on science that we're allowing children to live a lie.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I think there's, a lot of things that are being brought to the limelight, and there's a lot that we don't know. We don't know the long-term effects of the pesticides that are being used on our food, the artificial fertilizers. We don't know about these exposure to plastics. Actually, we do know about some of them.
Some of it.
That they're plasticizers that make plastic softer are endocrine disruptors. And so how does that affect us as we're in the womb and developing? We just don't know. We obviously can't do randomized controlled trials on humans. There's some work in rodents and other models to try to figure that out.
It seems to be a big problem, testosterone in men and that kind of thing, and we need strong men to be the leaders. Anything else you want to add to this discussion and your work here?
I think it's great that we've got bans in 26 states. We've got some very recent forward motion from the federal government, from HHS, and from the FDA. The House of Representatives just passed Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill last week. We want to see that in front of the Senate as well. But we also need to make sure that this doesn't go undercover, and that's where you can really help. We know you do amazing undercover journalism work to make sure that these doctors aren't skirting these state and federal laws and mutilating kids under the table, in hiding, miscoding insurance bills.
Well, people always say, James O'Keefe, you need to do this, and I say, you need to do this, because we need you. People out there in the medical offices, maybe even a child who isn't transitioning but might pretend to be, to expose this. We'll protect the privacy of the victims. We're not going to show any of that, but if there are doctors that are manipulating this and they're behaving like this, it needs to be exposed. Where can people find your work? Have you written a book yet?
So I'm working on it. I would love to release a book within the next 3 years, but I am primarily on social media right now. I'm on X and Instagram, and I am planning on releasing more video content in the next coming years as well. So you can find me. My handle on Instagram is Chhoocole, CHOOO, 3 O's, COLE, and you can find me on X at Chloe Cole.
How about you, Doctor? How can people support your work?
And people can find me on social, Dr. Jared Ross, Dr. Jared Ross, and join our organization, completely free to join. It's Do No Harm, donoharmmedicine.org, donoharmmedicine.org.
Is that medicine? Do No Harm Medicine.
Do No Harm Medicine.
That's donoharmmedicine.org. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your courage. What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.